Hey there, Gary Parrish. Welcome back. CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball Podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. The Eye on College Basketball Podcast is presented by Jersey Mike's Subs, a sub above. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do to the like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, please also do that while you're here. Let's get into it. I want to start in Lexington, which will provide the sport with its most interesting scene this weekend. Arkansas at Kentucky inside Rupp Arena on Saturday night, a little after 9 p.m. Eastern. John Calipari is going to enter the playing surface to coach Arkansas against the program he guided for 15 years before leaving in April to coach the Arkansas Razorbacks. Norlander, a man who coached Kentucky for 15 years and led the Wildcats to the 2012 national championship and a total of 4 Final Fours, is going to be coaching against his former school inside Rupp Arena for the first time since leaving UK last April. I assume it's going to be weird. I assume it's going to be surreal on some level for John, but somebody who went through something similar a little more than 2 decades ago. That guy's obviously Rick Pitino. He coached Kentucky to greatness, left for the Celtics, eventually returned to Rupp Arena as the coach of Louisville. It was not quite apples to apples. We can get to that. But yesterday, Rick decided to jump on social media to post a video, send a message to Big Blue Nation. Nada, I know you have it queued up. So before we discuss all of this, let's listen to what Rick Pitino had to say.
Hello, Big Blue Nation. I didn't steer you wrong with Mark Pope when I sent out that last video, and I certainly won't steer you wrong with this video. Toughest day of my coaching career at Louisville was when I had to walk into Rupp Arena. Tried not to show it, but when I went home, the reception, it tore me up apart because I love that place so much. And it's interesting because I was speaking to Ed Cooley just recently about Providence, and he said he almost was brought to tears because of the bad feelings he got going back there. But this is different. And as you all know, I'm not best friends with John Calipari. I respect him, certainly. But it was a mutual thing. The fans wanted a change. John read the tea leaves. He needed a change. And he really didn't want to leave. But what did he do for you? He brought the best talent in the history of the game of any university in America to Lexington. He also won a national championship. He also was, his style of play was extremely entertaining. So he's coming back on Saturday, and I want all of you to show the great class that you have. 23,000 plus people giving him a huge standing ovation. Show him what respect and admiration's all about. I know you have the class. I've always believed in you. Do it once again.
Interesting stuff from Rick Pitino, the Hall of Fame coach, now, of course, at St. John's. Norlander, do you think Kentucky fans will listen to him? Answer that, and then either way, tell me whether you think they should listen to him.
This has become even more of a storyline than I thought it was going to be heading in. I mean, not just evidenced by we decided to lead the show with it because I think this is the anticipation for this is actually pretty damn intriguing. And if anything, it's half surprising ESPN's Game Day is going to Carolina Duke instead. Arkansas is not that good, and maybe that's a factor. It's always Carolina Duke. What do you expect? But considering all of the buildup to this, I'm actually a little surprised by that here in the moment. The one thing that Pitino did not mention, and I'm intrigued how he sent the video period, is there was a really good column story this week by Ryan Black in the Louisville Courier-Journal. I linked to it in the court report, and it went pretty long on how much good Calipari did for Lexington, for Kentucky, for places all around that state. Basically every time, and unfortunately there were multiple times while he was there, when Kentucky endured serious hardships due to natural disasters and other things, he helped raise tens of millions of dollars in relief. And the story basically lays out for everything tied to basketball and everything connected to that with John Calipari's legacy. His biggest impact by far was what he did in those moments. And we talked about them every time they happened on the podcast. And I thought we haven't heard a lot about that in the build up to this. And it was a really good story by him. I recommend going and finding it out. Ryan Black, Louisville Courier-Journal. It's in the Court Reporter. Google it and you'll find it. It's a good read in advance of this. I bring that up because I earlier in the week, we talked about this on our Tuesday show on TV on CBS Sports Network, and then that subsequently went into the pod feed. I was thinking it was going to be mixed, but maybe 60-40 going in, more positive than negative. But Matt Jones carries a big voice in that area. He's the biggest media personality in Kentucky. He's someone who even this week has reminded his audience that he and John Calipari were not on good terms by any means in the final years of his tenure. And I think Matt Jones even publicly disclosed that in his interpretation, John Calipari tried to get Matt Jones fired in his waning days at UK. And so because of this, he has gone on a little bit of a stump toward to say, Kentucky fans are going to do what they want to do. We don't need to hear from people that don't live in the area about what we should do. I think because of that, we're probably going to get some more negative response at the start. Also, the poll question on today's show is, if you were a Kentucky fan, and there are Kentucky fans that are actually watching and voting on this, would you boo, cheer, or just stay silent? I think if it was me, I guess I'd probably just stay silent. But I am expecting more negative than positive now, and I wasn't thinking that maybe 3-4 days ago, Parrish. Beyond anything else, it's a game being played, and it's how a fan base responds to a guy walking into a building. So on some level, we are overstating this just a bit, but it is theater. It's a compelling storyline. And Calipari's also spoken about it a little bit this week. We'll hear more about it once the game is done. But no doubt about it, this cannot be an easy thing for him to do. But hey, it got paid the big bucks. You knew what you were doing when you said, I'm going to leave the school and stay in the conference. You knew you'd have to go back in. And so here we are. What are your thoughts as we curl towards Saturday in a very highly anticipated moment in Rupp?
Well, I've been doing this long enough where I realized at some point that Kentucky fans should do whatever they want to do, because I'm not going to move them one way or another, right? Me telling other fans what I think they should do is just wasted energy, because they will either already agree with you or they won't. And if they won't or don't agree with you, you're not going to move them into your direction. They're going to tell you, right, you don't know.
I think Kentucky fans might be more empowered to be even more defiant because of this. Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
They will either already agree with you, or if they don't, they will say you don't understand. Right? You're not a part of Big Blue Nation, so you don't understand. Right? It's either they agree with you or you don't understand. Right? So I'm not trying to convince anybody what to do. I'm not telling anybody what I think they should do. Seriously, Kentucky fans, do whatever you want. I don't care. It will have no impact on my life whatsoever. Do whatever you want. But if somebody were to ask me, what would I do if I were? I said this earlier in the week when we did the show on CBS Sports Network. If I were in Rupp Arena as a Kentucky fan with my sons and John Calipari were walking back in, we might just miss it because we're late. You know, we would just
frankly, the way this pod started, I think you would miss it. Because you might be
because it was late, probably. Yeah. Right. We'd probably just miss the whole thing because we were running behind because somebody forgot to put a shoe on. That's the way it would probably go down.
But if practical, let's just say that's not the case, and you were in the building.
Yeah, odds are we would think about it all week and then miss it because we were late. All right, but if we happen to be there and everything was going perfectly for some weird reason, we would applaud. We wouldn't be mean. We wouldn't try, and I don't want to oversimplify this or make it into something it's not, but we wouldn't try to make somebody feel bad in that moment. Because and I understand sports is different. Every single thing I'm going to say going forward can be countered by, yeah, but sports is different. I understand that. It just makes no sense to me as a human to stand in a building. This makes no sense to me as a human to stand in a building and say, this man who gave 15 years of his life to this place that I care about deeply and took us to 4 Final Fours and a national championship and raised all the other stuff. You can go read about it, but became a part of the community and did great things for the community and wanted so deeply to do great basketball things for the community. And yeah, that fell off a little bit. And so it got so ugly that you were like, leave. And he was like, I don't want to. And you were like, but go. And he was like, okay, I'll go. So now that guy's coming back to coach, and we need to make him feel like hell for whatever reason. I don't even know what the reason is exactly.
I don't. This is the passion of sports. I understand. Like I get where you're.
Yeah, I understand. And then you can say, but it's sports, GP. And I'll say, okay, sure, whatever. Again, boo him all you want to. Throw batteries at him if you want to. Like, it will not impact.
Not endorse physical violence against other human beings. Let's not.
I don't want violence against other human beings. I'm telling you, I'm not going to write a column on Saturday night about any of this. I promise you I'm not. I'm just telling you what I would do. I'm just telling you, I look at this from a totally different perspective than most sports fans. I understand that, but I do look at it from a different perspective. And I am much more in line with Rick Pitino than I am with the Kentucky fan who has tweeted me nonstop and said we're going to boo him like crazy. I'm much more in line with Rick Pitino than I am with that person, because this is going to be a moment in John Calipari's life. And just to double down on Rick, what I like Rick Pitino, have known John Calipari for a long time. Not as long as Rick, but I've known him for a long time.
And Rick Pitino, you and John Calipari are not the best of friends.
I wouldn't say we're best friends. I wouldn't say we're enemies. I wouldn't identify John as my enemy, but we're not best friends. But like, that's going to be but I do know him. That's going to be a moment that matters in his life. He's been thinking about that probably all year. And at my age, I don't have any interest in making somebody else I don't have any interest in making somebody else experience a bad moment like that. On Saturday, I'm not telling anybody else what to do. I'm telling you what I would do. I would, on some little bitty level, have the power to make somebody remember this fondly or remember this terribly, the way Rick Pitino described it in that video. And I would be more interested in him remembering this fondly, because even though it ended badly, at the end of the day, I wanted him gone. He left, and now we're better off. He's probably not. We won this thing. If this is a divorce, we won the divorce. I don't need to rub it in his face anymore. I would just thank him for all of the great things he did for 15 years.
Tyler in the chat earlier on said, I'll be in attendance and I will cheer Cal until tip-off. Then it's booze until he comes back to get his name in the rafters. That's a nice little approach, although I don't really know how the execution of that works out. Is it like when Arkansas has possession of the ball, you're like directing your booze at Calipari? Is it walking in
here's the thing about that. I've heard this argument, and I'll listen. Listen, I don't care what your argument is, okay? I don't care. I'm not going to fight with you about it. But some of the arguments are nonsensical. Like I have, because I've had them in my mention since we did the TV show earlier in the week. So one is like, well, he's a competitor. He's coming in here as a competitor. Well, Clint Sargent came in as a competitor. A Kentucky fan, tell me about how badly you booed Clint Sargent as a competitor this season. Tell me if you even know who that is. He's the coach at Wright State. He was a competitor to your Wildcats earlier this season inside Rupp Arena. You don't even know. So the idea that you have to boo the opposing coach because he's competing against you, that's just not true. It doesn't happen. But it's the Arkansas coach. Tell me about how you booed Eric Musselman. All right.
Golden Gate Mike.
Tell me about how you booed Golden Gate Mike. Come on. Like, that's not what this is about. If you boo John Calipari, knock yourself out. But it ain't because he's a competitor inside Rupp Arena. That's not the reason. That's silly. That's stupid.
Poll results right now. If you were a UK fan, what would you do on Saturday? 47% say they will cheer, or they would cheer. 30% say stay silent, and 24% say boo. Before we move on, can we just talk a little bit about Pitino putting out that video, because I find it to be completely fascinating. I remember when I do remember, this is my college days, but I remember when Pitino returned to Rupp. I don't know how much you remember about that. I know you were at the commercial appeal at that point, covering Memphis before, Cal got long before Cal got to Kentucky. But I remember the build up to that being bigger than what this is, in part because maybe college basketball nationally meant just a little bit more. You didn't have your first takes and et cetera, focusing on Super Bowl or whatever, because this game happened in December of 2001. And they were pretty vicious. And Pitino alluded to that obviously in his video in terms of like he tried to hold a straight face, and then when the game was done and he went back home to his Louisville home that night, he was pretty busted up about it. That was intense. I don't think this will be as intense, nor should it be, because Pitino, even though Cal stayed in the profession, in the sport year over year and didn't leave for the NBA, Pitino went to Louisville. Like, it is a different deal altogether. But the fact that these two men who were longtime rivals, coached against each other, did not like each other, and now they have both found themselves in the position of returning to coach in the building against the program they once led and led to national championships. To me, a big picture, jump out 10,000 feet. I find that totally fascinating that both these guys wound up taking jobs that put them in this position. And now, and Pitino's train was 24 years ahead of the pace, right? And for him to put out that video, and now that he's in the good graces of most Kentucky fans, he returned back in the fall to go to see, this visit Rupp Arena, but he was also there. Why was he there? I can't remember why he went. It wasn't explicitly to go and stand in front of Rupp Arena and get this rousing applause. He went for another reason and to see Mark Pope, but I can't remember what it was.
It was not a celebration of the championship team.
Well, it was a celebration. Okay, I thought there was something with the football program as well. I can't remember, but regardless, I think you're on the money there. He goes, it is this amazing homecoming warming scene while he's the coach at St. John's. Find it all interesting. And the fact that he put this out, though, semi-unprompted, just to, hey, Kentucky fans, we're all good now. And so why don't you go mostly treat John Calipari the way you treated me? He didn't have to do it. I thought it was pretty cool, and certainly is not something that I would have thought possible. I mean, as recently as like 3 months ago, but now seeing Pitino in his older age, he's still super competitive, fiery as hell. I'm sure he's stepping on a St. John's practice right now, and you'd get plenty of glimpses of the Pitino of 20 years ago. But he seems to gain even more perspective, and I was interested by it. What were your thoughts on him feeling compelled to put this out there, and in the process? I mean, I don't know if he changed a single Kentucky fan's mind, but maybe he did. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, Rick is one of the few men, as I mentioned earlier, who's been through this. Like, he's been through this, and it was apples to apples. And him being booed, I think, obviously made more sense to me than what might happen this weekend. Kentucky fans did not want Rick Pitino to not be the Kentucky coach. I know Twitter didn't exist then, but if it did, I don't think anybody would have tweeted that. I mean, perhaps a Russian bot or something, but you get the point. I don't think many people, there's always a Russian bot that'll handle something, but I don't think there weren't Kentucky fans saying, get Rick Pitino out of here. The only person saying, get Rick Pitino out of here was the Boston Celtics and Rick Pitino. All right? Yeah. And then he returned to college basketball as the coach at your in-state rival. So, again, do whatever you want to do. But if I'm being honest, that one makes a little more sense to me. Kevin Durant leaving Oklahoma City, nobody in Oklahoma City was like, get Kevin Durant out of here. So that one makes a little more sense to me. When he voluntarily leaves for Golden State, nobody wanted him to do that. I think like nobody wanted him to do that in the whole world other than Draymond Green. And so that one made a little more sense to me. This one is less sensible, but whatever. But I think, Rick, a couple things. It's so much easier in life to be generous, to be exactly what Rick was in that video, when your life is going well and maybe the person you're talking about is going through some tough times. Like if John Calipari was ranked #1 in the country with undefeated Arkansas, this would be a totally different conversation.
That's interesting. If Arkansas was really, 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 really good, you don't think Pitino makes the video?
No. Or if the Johnnies were really, really bad, I think he might just stay out of it. But like things are going brilliantly for Rick. John's struggling. Rick got his flowers from Kentucky last year. There's just a whole lot of stuff that makes it easier for Rick to do this than and I'm not even trying to discount what he did. I thought what he did was awesome. And I thought what he did was on point. And I thought I enjoy stuff like that. Like, hey, man, I've been through this. And you might think as a Kentucky fan, like it's just the opposing coach and we're going to boo him and Big Blue Nation and whatever. But like this guy's going to remember this forever. I remember it forever. I know what he's thinking about right now. And how nervous he is about this whole deal and awkward it is and surreal it is. I know how you made me feel. I love you, but I know how you made me feel. Don't make him feel that way. It's an easier thing to say under these circumstances than it would be under other circumstances. And I do believe that probably plays a role, but I don't even like discussing that too much because I don't want to discount what Rick did. I loved what Rick did. And again, that's much more of the mindset I would have walking into that place than I think the other side of it. Again, just logically, if I were I actually had this sort of internal conversation. If I were talking to my little guy, he's 8 years old, and he has no memory of John Calipari at my alma mater, right? He doesn't have any memory of that. Really, the only thing he knows is Penny Hardaway. But if I were talking to him and I said, hey, we're Kentucky fans and we're walking into this arena today, and let me tell you why this is a big deal. Let me tell you why this is going to look and sound and feel different. I would say there's this man coaching this team, and we were going through it, buddy. Like we made a bad hire after we ran Tubby Smith off, and we needed to fix it. And so we went and hired this guy who we swore to God we'd never hire somebody like him 2 years earlier. But, things change, and we had to do something. And he had John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins coming. So we decided we'll do it. And this guy came here, man, and it was shot out of a cannon. I mean, he was ranked #1 in the country his first year, went to 4 Final Fours pretty quickly, won the 2012 national championship, was recruiting one 5-star future billionaire after another. Man, it was amazing. Oh, wow, Dad, what happened next? The sport changed, and he maybe didn't change enough with it, and we took a bad loss to the Peacocks. There was this bald guy on the podcast doing a Peacock impersonation. It was ridiculous. And then, buddy, when you get some time, get on your iPad and Google Jack Golke, because that was a wild situation, but then that happened. They lost to Oakland in the first round. That happened in the middle of the night. That happened in the middle of the night. Buddy, you go through life every day. You never wake up thinking you're going to do a peacocking impersonation. By the time you shut your eyes, you done went viral for a peacock impersonation. It was a wild time. So then this guy, 2 years after I'm doing a peacock impersonation, he loses to Oakland in the first round. And we said, as Kentucky fans, enough is enough. Bring me Scott Drew. Bring me Dan Hurley. Bring me Billy Donovan. I don't care. Bring me Mark Pope. Bring me somebody different than this guy. We got to get this guy out of here. So we yelled and screamed. And then we heard he might be going to Arkansas. So we said, please go. Get out of here, dude. We thank you for all you've done, but leave, please. So like he and his wife are sitting around reading all this. Everybody who looks like me and you were telling him to go to Arkansas. So he went. And now he's coming back this weekend to coach against us, not because he wants to. He wanted to retire here. He wanted to win another national championship, he'll retire here, and then come to games and be the Mike Krzyzewski of Kentucky basketball. But we told him, son, we told him to go. We said, you got to get out of here, buddy. We're tired of it. So he left, and now he's coming back. So when you see him, yell at him and say a bunch of bad stuff. That just logically makes no sense to me as a human. I get that it does in a sports thing. So knock yourself out and do whatever you want to do. I'm not telling anybody what they should do. I'm just telling you in my head, that's the way it looks and sounds to me. And making a bad memory for that person doesn't make sense to me. It's not what I would do, but you can do whatever you want.
It's a classic pod here. We were like, yeah, we can get 10 minutes out of the Cal Kentucky thing. We're at minute 24. We need to move on. But I will say just quick things, 3 things, then we can move on. One, he was looking to get out. I mean, he was poking around on the Ohio State thing. I had that sourced and reported that after the fact once he got the Arkansas thing. So a big picture, you're right. Like, if we went back, 13, 16, 18 months ago, he wasn't looking for it. But as it got, bumpy, he was looking at potential ways to get out. And then he went on TV with Mitch Barnhart, and they both had like this meeting of the minds. They didn't have a good relationship. They went on TV, and then it all blew up like 2 days later. Just so weird. If again, I'm gonna repeat, like, Arkansas's bad, man. 12-8. They've won 6 of 7. I wonder if the pity factor lands with the fan base at all. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. And then for Kentucky fans, where are you at mentally right now? Like, are you nervous at all about this game because Arkansas has been so bad? Like, that Calipari can come in and maybe pull this off. It doesn't feel like they are. And they probably,
you ready?
That's interesting. Like, thrumming under the surface. Like, is there any bit of nerves that your team, which has been really good this season, like could actually watch Cal come into your building and beat you? I don't expect it to happen, but that's also part of this as well. Kentucky's been really, really good. It'd be something, man. If we hop on this pod Sunday, GP, and we're talking about Arkansas beating Kentucky and Rupp Arena, that'll be something. I don't expect it to happen, but obviously that's part of the calculus too.
Sure, but like that has not even popped into my head until you said it. It's never occurred to me even once.
You've never been considered the possibility Arkansas might win this game.
No, but the last time I said that about a high-profile game, it was K's last game inside Cameron Indoor. And they went and got it.
How hilarious would it be? And we were like, that'd be hilarious, but come on, this isn't going to happen. And then
that is really the conversation we had. That would be hilarious, but it will not happen. And then it happened. And it was hilarious because he like scolded the crowd. It was like his big send-off.
Oh, what did he say? I don't have that on my board. I don't know.
I think he said something like, no, shut up. I think it was one of those. Like he was very much like your grandfather telling you to like zip it. I think he told him to zip their lips.
There was a whole post-game ceremony. I was there. Super awkward. They lost the game. You got all these Duke alumni. Like, oh man, it was something.
It was a weird. So never say never. Never say never. But
there we go. We got it. Unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, that's what it was. It's unacceptable. It was hilarious. I wish he would. It was hilarious. So that's the last time.
Hold on. Before we tip this game on Saturday, can Calipari send a text to someone in the athletic department at Kentucky, find an old friend that can give him the mic, and as some of these fans are just going after him, hand him the mic and say, it's unacceptable. See how that goes over Rupp Arena. Be the best. Oh,
so man. I lived through that. So I'd never say never, right? I'd never say never. But it never has popped into my head that Arkansas could win this game this weekend because I haven't seen anything from Arkansas except for like a 3-minute stretch against Michigan. I haven't seen anything from Arkansas other than that, except for like a 3-minute stretch against Michigan that made me think they're going to go into Rupp Arena and win. But like, hey, I'll have it on TV. We'll see.
It's not even in the Final 4 and 1. That's how much Parrish didn't even consider it. We're not picking this game for the Final 4 and 1. So,
well, I just assumed that. As you know, we're not actually trying to pick the biggest games as much as we're trying to give us reasons to talk about different things. And if you're going to talk about Arkansas, Kentucky in the A block, you don't need to circle back to it in the Final 4 and 1. This is how you plan a show, Norlander. Why don't you just let the show planner? Why don't you let the show planner plan the show?
Back the curtain too much for the audience. I know. All right. We need to get to the B block.
Let's move on. Can we get to the B block? It's time to get to the Pinnacle Bank. Struck again last night. Pinnacle Bank struck again last night. We're going to celebrate another victory by a building. We're going to do that next. But first, let's get a word from our partners. Pinnacle Bank struck again. Illinois. The computer darlings that are the Fighting Illini went to Pinnacle Bank. You know what happened next. They actually got it to overtime, which is better than what most people do in Pinnacle Bank. You know,
Illinois had been winning a ton here. Illinois was 9-0 in its last 9 games versus Nebraska before this result last night. Parrish, were you aware of that?
All I knew is they were walking into Pinnacle Bank on a Thursday night, and I know what happens when you do that. I know how that story ends. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. I've seen this movie before. I know what happens when you walk into Pinnacle Bank as a visitor. You know what? In all seriousness, I don't
please don't go all seriousness, please.
In all seriousness.
Please not right now.
You know when I say in all seriousness, it's about to get not serious very quickly. But I don't think I'm gonna have a legacy. Other than I'm a man who spent a lot of nights in a Marriott. I think that's probably going to be my legacy. But if anybody ever remembers anything other than that about me, I hope they remember my peacock impersonation.
That's your legacy.
It really is my legacy. Think about that for a second. Think about that. Like, what is your like?
Think about Gary Parrish. What comes to mind?
That's it. That's me. I did that in the middle of the night one night.
It's literally that was done. I want to say at 2:20 in the morning.
I just decided you don't wake up thinking you're gonna be a peacock before you go to sleep.
I remember you remember like these huge moments that happen in your life, and you can remember time and place. I remember I was in Greenville, South Carolina, sick as hell after covering the tournament. I could barely talk. If you had asked me to do that, I would have died. You were ready to go. I can picture the hotel room. I remember everything about this moment. Anyway, you were getting at something about Pinnacle Bank.
I don't have a crystal clear memory of all of my children's deliveries, but I remember creating a peacock impersonation, perhaps in this exact same hotel room. It might have been the same room. I doubt it, but it's possible. All right. So that's probably my legacy. But if anybody remembers anything other than that about me when I'm dead and gone, I hope that it's that I told you about Pinnacle Bank well before anybody else had ever talked about Pinnacle Bank.
True.
I was talking about this.
Just keep going. I don't want to derail the show.
No joke. Every time Nebraska,
the other part is another bank. Your big bank challenge, love. That's another.
See what I'm talking about? I have a legacy. I have more of a legacy than I think I give myself credit for. It's just not the type of legacy.
Comfortable with it?
No,
big bank challenges?
No. Nobody's like, oh, that guy's a great father. It's like he does a decent peacock impersonation on No Sleep. That's my legacy. I do have a legacy.
That's outrageous today. I can't look at this chat. Someone's reminding us that we talked about what would get kicked out of his final game, and it was you saying he would have to piss on a fish.
This is my legacy. I say outrageous things on No Sleep from a hotel room. All right. I go on a basketball podcast and talk very little about basketball in a hotel room on little sleep multiple times a week. That's my legacy. But I would like a part of my legacy to be that I told you about. I identified Pinnacle Bank way early. Nobody else knew this. Nobody else was talking about this. And I do know we have reached a point in my life where I know, you understand this? I have no connection to Nebraska at all. I've been there once. But I know that every time Nebraska wins a home game, I'm going to be mentioned. People think about me when Nebraska wins a home game.
Name's got put the name in the rafters. What are we waiting on?
What are we waiting? If Billy,
that's about it. I mean,
if Billy Joel could have a banner and the rafters at Madison Square Garden, why can't I get something at Pinnacle Bank? Shit, I already got a billboard in Times Square. Get me something at Pinnacle Bank. I'm responsible for some of this. I know this. If I ever walk into Pinnacle Bank,
it doesn't matter.
Yes, if I ever walk into Pinnacle Bank, I'll be treated a lot better than John Calipari is going to be treated inside Rupp Arena this weekend. Do you realize I would be treated better in Pinnacle Bank this weekend than John Calipari would be treated at Rupp Arena?
It's not close. I mean, to be fair though, like I feel like I could walk in Pinnacle Bank and the same thing would be true. But point is,
I want you to be a part of this too. Because you could have split apart from me.
No, I will not. I will not. That's stolen valor, and I have downplayed Pinnacle Bank. So I would have to respect the plan. There are plenty of other spots that I have much love for and much respect for. I'm still not convinced that you can't walk into Pinnacle Bank, to be honest.
It's a wild thing to just randomly
Pinnacle Bank doubter. If I gotta be honest about this, I'm not on your train with this. That's all.
Think about this for a second. I was yelling about how impossible it is to walk into Pinnacle Bank at a time when like Nebraska never won and couldn't go to NCAA tournaments and nothing. I was just ahead of I ain't right about everything. I thought Marvin Bagley should go #1 in the draft. All right. I ain't the smartest dude in the world, but I had this Pinnacle Bank thing knocked out. I had this one. This is part of my legacy.
Get your wins when you can take them. Congrats to Nebraska for getting a win. Can you tell the audience what's Nebraska's record this season?
I'm more focused on me. I don't know Nebraska's record right now. You tell me. What do you think Nebraska's record is?
With a cool 3-7 Big Ten record. They were on a 6-game losing streak, 2 of which were at Pinnacle Bank in that stretch. But facts. What do they matter?
I don't remember
Illinois
that happening. That's not
Illinois.
I don't.
Real quick.
I have no memory of that.
Brad Underwood might blow up a starting lineup. He said, "Quote: I've got to do something with the starting lineup." Continues the quote. Our starting lineup, we're minus 32 since Tommy's been out, and we don't know when we're getting him back, so we got to figure it out in the meantime. End quote. Visic has mono. Minus 32 is a heck of a numbers there. So Illinois got to figure it out. I still like this. This was a weird game. Illinois never had the lead. They got it to overtime, and then Nebraska settled the matter in the bonus session. Illinois, I think Parrish wants to call him a computer tricker. They're 14-7, have lost 4 of their past 6.
I do not want to do that.
I think you do. And then I'm looking at the best wins here. Best wins are Arkansas on a neutral, barely registers. Home against Wisconsin, solid. At Oregon, give them credit for that. But other than that, resume is still lacking a bit. More opportunities to come. But I do like this team a lot, and I love Yakachonis. But it is, it's worth stepping back and addressing here. They don't turn teams over at all. It's a major issue. Like they're good at defending. They're just not good at forcing the issue, creating opportunities in transition, and then they don't have a lot of good 3-point shooters. So I was high on Illinois, relatively speaking. Like thought they'd be top 4 in the Big Ten. Thought they'd be a top 20-ish level team. Maybe they still can be. Maybe they're still a fun Elite 8 type of dark horse. But they got to address some stuff. It's not just a Visic. It should be better than that. But certainly notable. They couldn't get the job done on the road against a Nebraska team that had lost its previous 2 games at Pinnacle Bank.
Sure, should be better without him, but they are without him. I mean, they're without arguably, if not inarguably, without their second best player.
I think that is fair.
Right. So, I'll tell you this. I had to move them down in the top 25-1 because at some point the results are the results. But if you're looking for a 6 seed that can go to the Final Four, this is going to be your team. If you try to,
or I think a Maryland can do that if it gets in that spot. But for sure.
Yeah. I mean, this is talented. They are high in the computers, and the resume doesn't support where they are on the computers. But I think most of us understand this. They're not doing the same things. Not everybody who covers college basketball understands it, but they're not doing the same things. So, no, I'm not calling them a computer tricker. Don't you put words in my mouth. What I'm telling you is this is a team that could end up as like a 6 or a 7 seed based on resume. And then you look at the talent on the court once we get mononucleosis behind us, and you go, okay, that's a team that I can see going to the Final Four. That's what Illinois is going to be. They're going to be a very popular. You're going to see brackets. You're going to go, that team is being advanced over higher seeded teams, better seeded teams. And why? And it's going to be because people, I think, accurately believe this Illinois team is better than what their resume suggests. Because Yakachonis he was away for a minute. Now you're missing another key player for a minute. This team's better than what it's been able to show. And when I get my bracket, I'll probably have them going farther than the number next to their name suggests they should go.
I appreciate Underwood offering some real clear thoughts on this because I do have an Underwood drop on my board here. He has given this sound before after his team didn't play well. That is Brad Underwood. Look, I'm not kidding. This is, if you want to know what it sounds like when Brad Underwood's lips meet his tongue, this is it. Yeah, there we go.
Whoa, so that's a lot. That was a lot to say.
It's also factually accurate. One other Big Ten result, quick. UCLA beat Oregon. I told you I've been a little bit of a seller on Oregon here. It was the Ducks' biggest win. The Ducks' biggest loss to UCLA since 2009. UCLA has straightened itself out a bit here, GP. 5 wins in a row. Good on them for getting it done. And then they got Tyler Belitto back last night. But Eric Daly was awesome. He had 21 points, 8 of 9 from the field, hit all of his 3-pointers. UCLA is now 16-6, 7-4 in the Big Ten. Ducks are 16-5, 5-5 in the Big Ten. Those programs might be going on a little bit different directions right now, but that was a late tip, late finish. I admit that I did not make it to the end. I was fading fast. I was like, UCLA's got this in the bag. Woke up. That was indeed the case. When Cronin doesn't have to fly east, when he doesn't have to see that damn Statue of Liberty, he's not such a bad coach after all, and things are going okay for the Bruins.
One more thing to get to before we get to the Final Four and 1 presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. That is North Carolina is playing at Duke this weekend. big game for Hubert Davis. I was asked earlier in the week on television whether it was a must-win game, so I'm just going to turn it around, ask Norlander next. But first, let's get another word from our partners. Buddy, I love that Masters music.
I know you did.
If I ever want to get a nap in.
No, not watching, you didn't hear the Masters.
I know, but I'd like to assume everybody's doing exactly what I'm doing at all times.
Okay.
I think that's a good way to go through life. North Carolina at Duke, 6:30 Eastern tip on ESPN on Saturday night. North Carolina, after being ranked by some idiots in the top 5 in the preseason, 13-9 overall, 6-4 in a not great ACC. I was asked this week whether this is a must-win game for Hubert Davis. I said, buddy, I hope not, because they're more likely to lose by 15 than they are to win it. But how would you answer that question? Somebody asked you.
2 ways to interpret the question. Must win to have any chance of making the NCAA tournament, or must win to avoid getting fired this season? Which way would you interpret that question?
Just must win to not have your Twitter mentions all messed up by the time you go to bed on Saturday night.
Not the third option.
I think that's an option.
Again. Okay. It's not a must-win for getting into the NCAA tournament because there's an ACC tournament where they could get hot. NC State did it last year. No, it's not impossible to think that North Carolina could do it. I don't think it's must-win for his job security either. I went on Joe Ovius and Joe Giglio's podcast, and we talked a lot about this on Thursday. This is obviously a very hot topic in that part. A lot of good stuff this weekend on the slate. And that Final Four and one's coming. Don't you worry. But the Joes and I agreed that it is unlikely, we believe, that even if North Carolina doesn't make the NCAA tournament, that Hubert Davis will be fired. Some North Carolina fans will vehemently disagree with that, but considering the fact that he was handpicked for the job by Roy Williams, who's still very much around and part and influential in that program, same AD, he is an alum. He has gotten a 1 seed. He has gotten to a national championship game. He has been on the sideline for some of the more memorable North Carolina wins ever, and some of the big disappointments. I expect him to hold on to the job, but we'll see how this goes. I brought up on the Ovius podcast that when North Carolina went in and ended K's home career, when Mike Krzyzewski notably did not urinate on an official, when that game happened, I'm going to bring up the exact numbers again here, because it was a surprising finish, no doubt. But Duke, to start that game, Duke was 5th at KenPom. North Carolina that day was 16th at KenPom. Right now, Duke is number 3. Carolina is 39. The gap is much bigger between this team this year and what we saw almost 3 years ago. I hope Carolina can keep it close. Because it's Duke, North Carolina, I give them a shot. But is Jalen Washington going to play in this game? Because if he doesn't, it's not going to help matters whatsoever. How Carolina winds up scouting and executing on this will be really intriguing. Duke is rolling. It hasn't lost since the week of Thanksgiving. It's pre-Thanksgiving even. And see, this game is also not in the Final Four one. I see little reason to think that North Carolina can come in and get it done. It will only increase the heat, especially if it's like if we're talking like an 85-66 Duke runaway. It's going to worsen even more. Carolina's not in the tournament picture right now. Win this game, then the projected bracket they'll be in it because that'll be such a huge win. But a loss here gets them to 13-10 and makes it even uglier. They've got big games after that. Home to Pitt, at Clemson. This is a very critical stretch. Not just the Duke game, which is the biggest, but the 2 after that also. That's where the season hinges for UNC to have any kind of at-large resume.
To answer my own question, it's obviously not a must-win game for any reason other than your Twitter mentions. North Carolina is still a bubble team. The NCAA tournament is still well within reach. It's not like if you lose it, you're going to get fired on Sunday morning. It's not a must-win game in any sort of actual sense of the term. But this is getting to an awkward situation. They've lost 3 of 4. They were preseason top 10, and they are at least in position to maybe miss the NCAA tournament for the second time in a 3-year span. Like, you're not supposed to do that at North Carolina. And I don't really care so much for the arbitrary like pass-fail lines that people create. And I know this is a very normal thing to do when you're talking about hot seat stuff. It's like, well, if they make the tournament, they'll be okay. And if they don't, then you got to like, I don't, if I were running a university athletic department, I wouldn't want to put my men's basketball job in the hands of a selection committee filled with people I might not think are great. Like, I'm going to make my own decisions about whether I keep my coach or not whether they get an invitation to go to the first four or not from a selection committee. So Hubert can make the tournament, not make the tournament. That really would not impact my decision at all if I were North Carolina and having these thoughts. And let me stop here and ask you a question. Do you think at North Carolina, hey, we're talking about this 20, however many minutes deep into a podcast, do you think they're talking about this in North Carolina, thinking about this privately? They have to, right?
I would think the people that are attached to making these kind of decisions, it starts to enter, but I don't believe that they will move off of him.
Okay.
Unless it really, like, we're talking like 8 straight losses, like that kind of stuff. I'm open to very much being wrong. I just don't think.
And like, whatever, they can do whatever they want. That goes without saying. I'm not as interested in what they will do as much as I'm interested in what should they do. And I really don't think it should have much to do with whether somebody makes a tournament or not. Because when you're preseason top 10 and you sneak into the tournament, that doesn't actually prove anything other than, like, you weren't as bad as you could have been. But either way, it's disappointing. I think in a place like North Carolina, after 4 years, you really need to be asking yourself this question. Do we have a Hall of Fame coach? Because we should. We're North Carolina. Do we have a future Hall of Fame coach? We have somebody who's been here for 4 years now. What do we think? Is this as good as we could do? Do we have a Hall of Fame coach? If you believe in it, stay with it. You should. But if you don't, answer that question honestly. We don't have to answer it right now. I'm not going to make you answer it. Actually, I will. I'd like for you to answer. Do they have a future Hall of Fame
Davis
coach?
Is not a Hall of Fame coach. I'm not going out on a ledge.
Okay, I would be asking myself questions like that. Like, do we know? Could we have somebody
shy of that? Do we have one of the? You even want to go a bar below that? Do we have one of the 10 best coaches in the sport right now?
Ask any version of that question you want to ask, and then answer it privately if you want to. But those are the type. I don't care who makes the tournament or not. This is North Carolina. Do you are one of the best basketball brands in the world. Do you have one of the best basketball coaches in the world? That's what I would be asking myself, regardless of whether they get a 10 seed or a 2 seed. I'd be asking those types of questions. Big game on Saturday night.
Big, but not as big as it could be.
Is this a little earlier? Is this a little earlier than they normally do?
No, they always do. It's always the Saturday between the AFC NFC title games and the Super Bowl. Yeah, and it used to be during the middle of the week. Real ones remember. Real ones. But I loved the first Carolina Duke game being on that Tuesday or Wednesday. I wish that was the case, but that's now gone forever. But no, this is right on time. I'd love to be talking about a competitive game. I'm not thinking it'll happen, but it's not in the Final Four and 1, so we don't have to pick it. What we do have to pick are the Final Four and 1 games. Let me hear that. Let me hear that music, buddy, and let's get that Final Four and 1. By the way, I was informed that I went 4-1 last week.
I was informed that I went 4-1 as well.
I gotta make my picks from ski trails more often. I mean, I took a hard left, stopped going down the middle of a trail called Nosedive. I was like, I got to get this done. Recorded it 2 minutes. Whoosh, down the hill. Didn't think about it again. Convinced I was going 2 and 3. 4-1. Who knew?
My situation was very similar, minus the snow and the mountains and the skis. But I also just was like, I guess I'll just pick some games, and then never thought about it again, and went 4-1. We're doing all right. At least last week. On the season, we're still not that great. I'm 26-33-1. You're 29-30-1. If you want losing college basketball picks, this is the place to be.
We are your podcast.
We're your podcast. If you want to
suck at predicting basketball games, we are the people for you.
If you want to lose all of your money gambling on college basketball, we can help you do that. All right? All right? So it's the Final Four and 1 presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Why do you think FanDuel is sponsoring this? Because they think we're going to cost them money? No way. We're not costing them money. We're telling you what to go lose at FanDuel Sportsbook. All right? FanDuel knows what's up. If you want winning picks, go to Sportsline. That's where the winning picks are. Talk to Katie Mox if you want a winning pick. Go talk to Katie Mox. We can't do this for you. You need You need a Katie Mox podcast. She can give you winners. We're over here struggling. Game 1.
For yourself. Let's go.
You're one game under 500 too. You ain't going to the World Series.
No shot.
Game 1, Saturday, noon Eastern. Number 5 Florida at number 8 Tennessee inside Dane Bradshaw Arena. You can watch it on ESPN. Kim Pom's got it. Tennessee -3.
This is a tough one. Right away. Get the day going with a nooner.
A nooner.
Top 10 matchup.
Yes.
Florida has never won on the road in a top 10 game, by the way. Never.
Well,
No.
Well,
what?
they've already beat one Title IX investigation. I think if you could do that, this is light work.
Their 2 losses are in overtime at Kentucky, 106-100, and then lost by 1 at home to Missouri. Eagle-eyed viewers will remember that this was a 73-43 game the last time these two teams met earlier this season.
That was tough.
It's the 3rd biggest win ever by a team over a number 1 opponent in the history of the sport. Walter Clayton Jr. averaging 19 a game, Elijah Martin averaging 18 a game, and Will Richard 12.5 a game. Which one of those 3 is going to step up big? And Sakai Ziegler, who dodged a big injury, can he step up and play well here? I thought Tennessee was going to show up and play well earlier this week against Kentucky. Didn't. I might step on the rake again. I will go Tennessee. I'll go Tennessee to win, but I'll go Florida to cover. You said it's -3 KenPom. We're not remember these are KenPom lines. We don't have the real lines for Saturday yet. If KenPom's got the Vols -3 here, give me UF inside of that number. 1 2 win. I'll say take Tennessee to win. Close one. Really good game down the stretch. Vols get it done. Because if they don't, let me bring it up real quick, Parrish. Tennessee has lost 3 of its past 4.
I know.
3 of its past 4. Yeah, I'll go with Rick Barnes' team to get it done.
They have lost 3 or 4. They're not playing well, but the team was ranked number 1 in the country like 3 weeks ago, and now they only got to
beat Auburn on the road last. Like they've been close, but
right. Yeah, they almost beat Auburn on the road a few days ago. They were ranked number 1 in the country a few weeks ago, and now they only got to lay 3 points inside Dane Bradshaw Arena. That's insulting. Okay. I take Tennessee -3. Game 2, Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Arizona at Arizona State inside Ike Diago Arena. You can watch it on.
I think. I think he said Diago. I think it's Diago.
Man, you should have seen what he did to Memphis in the NCAA tournament one time.
I remember.
Woo!
Talk about just an after the fact guy who was really, really good that maybe doesn't get quite as much love for his college dominance as he should. Ike Diago, real one.
He ruined John Calipari's first trip to the NCAA tournament at Memphis, buddy. He was Jack Golke before Jack Golke was Jack Golke. Woo! You can watch it on CBS. That's America's most watched network. It's the network of stars. KenPom's got it Arizona -4. Wildcats on the road. Hey, teams won 10 of 11. Looking like Big 12 contenders. As you know, Tommy Lloyd has never finished worse than second place in a conference, and it didn't look like that was going to be a streak that continued when they were 4-5 to start the season, but it still might not be a streak that continues because of Houston and some other stuff, but they're in play now. They're in play. They can do it.
They're a player. No question. Arizona State's 12-8, 3-6 in the Big 12. Does get this game at home. Bobby Hurley in a hot seat season, I think is fair. If Arizona State doesn't make the tournament and it's not pacing toward that, maybe that'll be one job that comes up. We'll see. I really like the way Arizona's been playing as of late, and like KJ Lewis, Jaden Bradley, what they can do on the defensive end is good. But why not? I'm going to talk it into existence. This is a CBS game, 1 Eastern Saturday. Let's get
America's most watched network of stars.
Competitive game. You know what? Let's get nuts. Arizona straight up. Let's go. Straight up.
Hold
Arizona.
on. Now be
Sun
clear. No, okay, you're
Who's
taking
the Sun Devil now? Who's the Sun Devil now? I'm the Sun Devil. Look at me. I'm a Sun Devil. That's right, baby. That's right. That's right, baby. I'm a Sun Devil.
I mean, I am a Sun Devil. That's the problem here.
Are you? But now you got to lay it on the line right now. I am a Sun Devil. I just became a Sun Devil. I just transformed on this show into a Sun Devil.
I've been a Sun Devil for years, man.
And you got to pick them. If you think you're a Sun Devil, you got to pick them right now. No matter what's on that little Google Doc of yours.
I don't think I'm a Sun Devil. I know I'm a Sun Devil. I'm not walking around thinking I'm a Sun Devil. I know who I am. I know who I am.
The game has already been picked.
The game was picked before I even woke up this morning. 15 minutes later than I wanted to. The game was picked. As soon as I put the game in the document, the game was picked. I'm a Sun Devil, man. What are you talking about? I got a lot of respect for Tommy Lloyd and what he's doing at Arizona, but I'm a Sun Devil at my core. We're taking the Sun Devils plus the points. Game 3 Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Number 1 Auburn at number 23 Ole Miss inside Jamin Brakefield Pavilion. You can watch it on ESPN. Ken Palm's got it Auburn -7. That's a big number in the SIP. Coming to the SIP. The number 1 team in the country is coming to the SIP.
It's been a minute since I've been wildly wrong about Auburn, and that time has come again. I'm overdue for a terrible Auburn prediction. Give me the SIP straight up. I'm going Ole Miss gets it done. Straight up. Ole Miss is beating Auburn on Saturday. This is going to go badly for me. Whatever. Sean Padula, this is your moment. After Ole Miss had a 3-game losing streak, pulls it out at home, beats Texas on Wednesday night. Chris Beer going against his former program. They got it done. Yeah. They're making it happen. Ole Miss over Auburn. It's another straight up. I could be 0-3 right now. This is... Oh boy, Tennessee over Florida, which barely has 2 losses. Arizona State over Arizona, which has 1 loss in 2.5 months. And now Ole Miss to beat Auburn straight up. That's right. Give me him. I'm taking your wife's alma mater. Let's go.
I mean, Katie Mox is on CBS Sports HQ. If you want winning picks, go talk to her.
Something about this game and this timing. I don't know. Something's calling to me.
I swear.
Mississippi. Yep. Let's go.
The number 1 team in the country that has the best resume in the sport by far is coming to the SIP. And I, like Norlander, am taking the Rebels straight up.
So done.
Auburn's gonna win by 40.
Oh, we're done. I thought I was going counterculture to you here. We are done.
Janai Broom's going to go for 30 and 17, 6 blocks. I know what's going on. But you ready for the Auburn fans? Before you hate me, let me tell you something. I'm going to go ahead and be honest with you, okay? Auburn fans, you probably won't lose on Saturday because you never lose. It's weird. You're in the toughest conference in the history of the sport and you never lose. It doesn't make any sense. All I ever do is I spend half my time talking about how the SEC is impossible, and then the other half of my time talking about Auburn never loses. These things don't make sense, all right? So Auburn fans, before you hate me, understand I know you're probably going to win by 40. I got it, all right? And BP, if you want to make some T-shirts in advance.
He has done that, by the way.
Yes.
Bristol has made shirts for disparaging remarks made by a CBS Sports employee. It just wasn't us before, but that has happened.
Shouts to Strong Jaw. Cal Boone been working with us for like 3 weeks, and he's got Bruce Pearl making T-shirts about him.
Throwback right there. Yeah.
The best. All right. So
yes.
BP, if you want to make some shirts, man, make
Absolutely.
some shirts. I take no offense. We have both picked against your unbeatable team today. You have an unbeatable team, and we're both saying it's going to get beaten. Make the T-shirts. All right. But also know this. If you win, you're going to be number 1 everywhere on Sunday. No problem. If you lose, I'm going to keep Auburn number 1 in the top 25-1. I do not care what Duke does to North Carolina. I do not care what anybody else does to anybody. I do not care if Auburn loses to Ole Miss. As long as Janai Broom is alive on Sunday, I will have Auburn number 1. Their resume is they're a golfer with a 3-shot lead at this point over the field. They are just so much ahead in resume based evaluations than everybody else. They can lose and still have clearly, undeniably the best resume in the sport. So Auburn, whatever happens on Saturday night, you're number 1 in the top 25 on Sunday morning. Game 4, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Number 25 UConn at number 9 Marquette inside Dwayne Wade Forum. You can watch it on Fox. KenPom has it. Marquette -8. Hey, thoughts with Dwayne Wade? He made a big announcement this week. He's had a cancer diagnosis, and yeah, that's a scary thing.
Yeah, our best to Dwayne Wade on a fast and hopefully healthy and speedy recovery on that, without a doubt. This is, how about this? You go back to January 5th. This is UConn's results. Starting on January 5th. Win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. Win on Saturday over DePaul. So the pattern holding would indicate a loss here. They are on the road against Marquette. UConn had some issues at home Wednesday against DePaul. Now, they wound up pulling away in the second half, and they won 72-61. But just little results here and there. Been a super intriguing UConn season across the board for many, many reasons. But strictly in terms of on-court play and results, we had the Maui disaster. They come back. They go undefeated in December, beating the likes of Baylor at Texas, take care of Gonzaga, had a really tough game against Xavier at home. They get all that done. And then in January, they get picked off by 2 at Villanova. They get beaten by Creighton, and that game happens in Connecticut. Then they lose last weekend at Xavier. And now here you've got Marquette on the road. I don't know if McNeely is going to play. I know they're eager to get him back. Still waiting on this. This stretch upcoming, by the way, is very big. You've got at Marquette, home to St. John's, at Creighton, and then at Seton Hall, which obviously has significant meaning for Dan Hurley on a personal level, even if Seton Hall isn't good this season. So big stretch coming. You know what? Again, this weekend got such a good feeling that there's going to be a lot of really, really awesome stuff. Look forward to talking on this one in studio for CBS Sports HQ on Saturday night. I will take UConn inside the number. 8's a little bit too big for me. I think they show up. They play really, really well. We get a good showing out of solo ball. Again, Caravan shows up, has a really nice game. I think Marquette will win. Home court ranks as a better team easily right now, but I like UConn inside that number. Give me the Huskies to cover +8.
I saw somebody in the chat ask, why is UConn still ranked?
I was surprised by that too. I think they're 25th, right?
Yeah, they're 25th. They're still ranked now for the same reason they were in the top 5 in November. Name, benefit of the doubt, belief in the coaching staff. I did not, even after their most recent loss, have them in the top 25-1. So they're not. I don't have them ranked, but they are in the AP poll. And I know people have big questions about UConn always. I don't even know what to say about them right now. They came into this season having lost 4 starters, and that was going to be an adjustment. They went to Maui, got smacked around. That was a weird experience. Then they got good. Then they legitimately got good, and then Liam McNeely got hurt. I mean, they're missing their best pro prospect right now. What does Illinois look like right now without one of its best players? I just don't have any big grand things to say about UConn until they're healthy. And then we'll see where they're at. I think it's pretty, I don't want to say pretty clear. I think there are indications that maybe this team will not reach the ceiling so many of us thought it had in the preseason. That's a reasonable thing to suggest might be true. But I don't think this team is so questionable that it's going to be having to fight like crazy to come from behind to beat the DePauls of the world always. They're just they're missing their most talented NBA prospect right now, and that's difficult. Either way, I think Marquette wins the game in Milwaukee, but that's a lot of points to be given to the best coach in the effing sport. You would agree with that, wouldn't you?
I do.
That's a lot of points to be given to the best coach in the effing sport.
Listen, this could be the worst Final Four in one ever.
Probably is.
Smell test on this one. We get a really, really competitive and good game between these two programs on Saturday.
So I'll take UConn plus the 8. That's a lot of points to give to the best coach in the effing sport. What are we doing for the N one?
Before we get to the N1, just a quick tour of all the other games to know. I'll be quick on it. Indiana-Purdue on Friday is the one notable game. Indiana at Purdue. So can the Hoosiers go into Mackey and keep it competitive? That's an 8 Eastern tip on Fox. We'll see. Saturday games to know that aren't in the Final Four and 1. 4 Eastern, Kansas at Baylor. Baylor has been bumpy Right now, the Bears are 13-7. They just lost in overtime against BYU. Kansas earlier this week wriggled out of would have been a disastrous situation at home against UCF to avoid that. That's notable. Wisconsin at Northwestern, 2 Eastern, FS1 on Saturday. Bucky's a really good team. Northwestern's in a spot where it's 12-9, not an NCAA tournament team, and it's got to turn it around. But that building can be a bit tricky. Keep an eye on that one. Creighton at Villanova. Just Creighton trying, it's got a tournament resume, but it's on the road. I'd keep an eye on that one as well. Pitt is at Wake Forest. Pitt got its win over North Carolina earlier in the week. Wake Forest is, a week ago, it was coming off of a win over UNC. It had won 6 in a row, and it had Duke at home, followed by at Louisville. It has lost both those games, and now Wake Forest, even though it's 15-6, not an awful record, super duper urgent home game for the Demon Deacons on Saturday. That game is a noon tip on ESPN2, so right alongside that Florida-Tennessee game is a really watchable one. Texas Tech plays at Houston at 6 Eastern on ESPN2 on Saturday. Houston is number 1 at Ken Pom, hasn't lost since November, just like Duke, and has been awesome. If they can beat Texas Tech, who is a top 12 team at Ken Pom, by the way, will only reinforce, I think, their Final Four bona fides. I'm interested to see how Texas Tech shows up for that game in particular, GP. We didn't give, I don't believe, the time of the Arkansas-Kentucky game. That's not my last game. That is a 9 Eastern tip on ESPN. Lord willing, it will actually tip at 9 o'clock because Carolina Duke is at 6:30. So even though these games are more and more going to like 2 hours and 15 minutes to finish, Arkansas Kentucky should go off as scheduled there. I think that's most of the notable ones to keep an eye on. The N1 late tip Saturday, ESPN 11 Eastern. Gonzaga at St. Mary's on Patty Mills Court. St. Mary's has won 9 in a row. It's undefeated in the WCC. Gonzaga is 16-6, 7-2 in the league. Ken Pom has the Gales, who pulled a Husky, by the way, earlier this week. A 30-0 run.
That was outrageous. 30-0. It went from they were down 24-22 to up 52-24, something like that.
That's 30. That's 22 plus 30 is 52.
Okay, good. You see how good I am at math?
Bada bing. Yes.
Look how smart I am.
19-30. Yes, 22 plus 30 is 52. You are smart.
I knew that. My
do the math.
My second grader taught me that.
There we go. Ken Pom. Gales -1 at home. I love this. This matchup is always worth watching, whether it's in the WCC tournament at Gonzaga. I love when this game is in that bandbox. Just anything can happen. Some really awesome results over the years. Who do you got?
I just watched him go on a 30-0 run. Randy Bennett's amazing. I'm taking the Gales at home. I'm going to lay the little point. Gonzaga's good.
It's a little point.
That's a little bitty point. That's a little bitty point. That's a little number. I'm laying it. Gonzaga. I mean, it's Gonzaga, but I'm taking St. Mary's -1. Randy Bennett's a genius.
Do we have nada? Mike on real quick. Are GP and I the same through the first 4 games?
No, because you're different on Tennessee and Florida.
Okay.
Okay. He took Tennessee to cover. I got Florida. Okay. We'll be different on 2 games. I will semi-reluctantly take Gonzaga straight up in this one.
You're not a building truster. You're not a building truster. You're showing that.
What's the name of the building St. Mary's plays in? 5 seconds ago. Let's go.
It's got a MC or something, doesn't it?
No, we've talked about it before.
What did they do? What did they do to this thing? It's stupid. It's a stupid name.
No, it's got a wonderful acronym. UCUP. UCUP.
Yeah, the UCUP.
University Credit Union Pavilion, which is a ridiculous name for what's basically a high school gym, but it's the UCUP.
Yeah, I told you.
So you can't even name the place where it's after. Come on.
You don't have to know the name of a building to know you can trust it.
I feel like you do, actually.
I don't think
you
so.
need to know it intimately. And there's nothing more intimate or basic than knowing the name of something.
Hey, I spent my early 20s trusting people I didn't even know their names.
Oh, boy. Okay, more of us. Real quick.
More of us.
Nada put up another poll. Should Hubert Davis get year 5? Not will, should. 62% say no, 38% say yes. So
Wow.
that should, not will.
Wow.
That's the Final Four and One presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more of us.
Hey, I trusted things less trustworthy than St. Mary's Gym. I promise you that. But it worked. It cuts both ways. I think there's probably somebody out there who's probably right now also saying, well, I trusted him and I'd have been better off trusting St. Mary's Gym. So it cuts both ways,
Yeah. Sure.
We were young.
That's a show.
Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Terry Teagle, legend, Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching, listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. More of us than there are of them. That should be reflected in the comments. So do that. We'll talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.